Welcome once again to another episode of our trip to the Holy Land in October of 2020. These episodes are designed to help give you an idea of all that we're going to be seeing and doing while in Israel. I'm your host, Joanna Fruhoff, and I lead the band Gracious Vine, and we're going to be taking a second group of people on this uniquely customized tour of Israel with our special guest, Paoli, and other members of his band. We will be on a pilgrimage together to see some of the most amazing sites of biblical history, museum and archaeological digs, as well as beautiful scenery. We're going to be seeing historical sites from the time of the kings and the prophets, and of course, the time of the life of Jesus. If you would like to be part of this amazing trip and journey, reach out to us at our website, www.graciousvine.com. This episode will be seeing several more sites in the Galilee region before we head south to the Dead Sea for the night. We'll be walking to Mount Arbel in the Valley of Doves. We'll be visiting the recent archaeological dig of Magdala. Afterward, we'll head to a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee. And then our last touring site of the day will be the ancient city of Bethshan. We arrive at Magdala. This city is just 3 miles north of Tiberias, where we have stayed the last few nights. Until 2009, this city was unexcavated and for all intents and purposes nearly forgotten. Jesus is said to have preached in all of the synagogues of Galilee, and most certainly he would have visited this city to do so. It is most known for being the town of Mary Magdala. This woman, no doubt, heard the good news of the gospel and reached out to Jesus, and he set her free from 7 demons. She followed Jesus and she supported his ministry. She is one of several women that were at the site of Jesus' crucifixion and beatings. She was the very first person to see the resurrected Lord, and he then gave her directions as to what to do and what to tell his disciples. It's believed that this is where she was born and lived, Magdala. Magdala, according to the Talmud, was known as the place that processed fish, whether it was smoked, dried, or salted. This could very well have been the place where the little boy who had the loaves and the fishes that fed the thousands got his lunch from that day. At the archaeological dig sites here, they've found the oldest remains of a synagogue in the entire region and one of the oldest representations of the temple in stone. Some of the dig shows walls that are covered with frescoes similar to the style and colorations of those found in Pompeii, Italy. Here, another historical character was born, Flavius Josephus, a Jewish leader who governed the area and fought against the Romans in 67 AD. We know him for his writings and all the Jewish history and the antiquities and the battles of the Jews written down for the Romans, but they have been a valuable source for Jewish historians and for Christians alike. We're going to travel to Mount Arbel. It can be seen from Magdala. This majestic hill overlooks the Valley of the Doves and can be seen from most places on Galilee. A route that was walked by so many to get in and out of the Galilee lowlands. No doubt Jesus himself walked through this valley, coming from Nazareth and going up to Jerusalem, as well as other moments during his ministry. Mount Arbel is a distinct hilltop. In its cliffs are caves used several times throughout history to take refuge in. The Jews hid themselves during the time of the Maccabees, as well as during the time when the rebels came to Magdala, while Josephus was the governor here. Many took refuge and used it as a hideout from the Greeks and the Romans. People were often dragged out, or they jumped to their death rather than being taken alive by their enemies. From the top, you can see so much of the surrounding Galilee region. You can see across the lake to the Golan Heights, and looking north on a clear day, you can see as far as Mount Hermon. Next, we're going to be going to take a beautiful boat ride on the Sea of Galilee. Think about it. This is the body of water that Jesus sailed with his disciples. It's here that he calmed the raging sea with the words, "Peace, be still." And here too, he walked on the water to save his disciples. Here he told Peter where to get a giant catch of fish, and where to get a fish that would have a coin in its mouth so he can pay the appropriate taxes. Here he also allowed Peter to walk on the water as well as he did. Jesus crossed this lake several times, going back and forth between the Jewish and the Gentile communities that flanked its shores. He fed thousands of Jewish followers and then thousands of Gentiles. He healed people of both backgrounds, set free men and women from both shores. He came to present the gospel to both Jews and Gentiles, to whosoever would believe, and found followers among both sects of people. It's amazing to think how Jesus came here, to the lowest place on earth that anyone can fish. He fished for men. Think about that. He goes to the lowest places and draws out those who would hear, believe, and follow him. So here on these waters, we've come to have some fun, some fellowship, a time of worship, and to contemplate some of these truths. What a beautiful time together we'll have. The last place that we're going to travel before we head to our hotel at the Dead Sea for the night is the ancient Roman city of Bethshan. Bethshan is a city in the North District of Israel. It played an important role in history due to its geographically strategic position. It was at the junction of the Jordan River Valley and the Jezreel Valley. It's here that the battle of the Israelites against the Philistines happened on Mount Gilboa. And in 1 Samuel 31, 10 through 12, we read that when Israel was defeated by the Philistines, they took the bodies of King Saul and 3 of his sons and hung them on the walls of Bethshan. In Roman times, this was the largest and most notable of the 10 cities established by the Romans in the region, called the Decopolis. It's one of 2 city ruins of the Decopolis that still exist in Israel today. In Mark 5, we're told of the story of the demon-possessed man who lived in the tombs in the Gentile region on the eastern banks of the Galilee. He was set free from a legion of 2,000 demons. At the end of the story, the man wanted to follow Jesus, but instead Jesus told him, "Go back into your hometown and tell them of what has happened." And the Bible tells us that the man told his story in all the cities of the Decopolis. This would have certainly been one of those cities that would have heard the transformational power and the good news of Jesus. During the Roman occupation, this city was called Scythopolis. Originally, it was a Canaanite town. This mound, or tell, is where several different civilizations, nearly 20 of them, erected their cities one on top of another. First the Philistines, then the Jews, then the Egyptians, and it went back and forth between the different ruling powers when there was a battle. The Romans decided to make it a premier city, and rather than building on the mound, they just left it alone, and they decided to build beneath it, in its shadows. They started from scratch, and they made it one of their largest cities in the area. This city is located on the intersection of fault lines of the African and the Arabian plates, and is one of the cities most at risk for earthquakes. It was seriously damaged in the Golan earthquake in 749 AD, and afterwards it never regained its strength, even though it was inhabited by the Crusaders afterwards, Mamluks, and the Ottomans. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as we've toured the Lower Galilee region, and I hope that you'll join us for our next episode as we move towards the Dead Sea, the lowest place on earth, and we'll visit not just the waters and the shore of the Dead Sea, but we'll be going to Masada and Gedi and the Qumran sites. Join us for our next episode. And if you have any interest in being part of our tour of Israel in October of 2020, make sure that you go to our website, www.graciousvine.com/Israel.